Shine bright like a diamond.
It is punishable, 14 years imprisonment to be gay.
Shine bright like a diamond.
It's annoying. Every Nigerian have the right to party. So why should these guys be arrested? Because they will perceive sexuality. I came to the US with one bag, no one friend.
Nobody is free until all of us are free.
I feel guilty because I have people back home who cannot have this that I'm having.
That country is a waste of time. Just leave it behind.
On Sunday, intelligence arrested 57 homosexual youths.
Someone died there.
Someone died.
It's about being able to make a change and make a difference. So going to Nigeria is something I need to do.
We have a community that is thrown out to survive by themselves.
The definition of a gay is when you are caught having sexual intercourse with a guy and they didn't caught me.
The whole world is watching me, so do your worst.
So shine bright.
For Nigeria, we fear what we don't know.
When are we going to overcome all this?
Nigeria is about community. This is the time for change.
You're beautiful like diamonds in the sky.
I want to encourage billions and zillions of people, telling them that you have rights. Do you know why? Because you're human.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we have a real exciting treat for you as we're talking to the team responsible for the HBO project, The Legend of the Underground. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to our members who are taking part in this roundtable today, beginning with our facilitator, Katia Woods in Philadelphia, Dana Abercrombie in New York, Carolyn Morissette in Toronto, Nancy Green in Los Angeles, Patrick Riley in New York, Rhonda Rasha Penrice in Atlanta. I'm going to let you do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
Carolyn from Toronto, my website View from the Dark. My first question is for Nneka and Giselle. How did you stay impartial for such a moving story, such a moving documentary? Because I, like everybody was saying, just tears in my eyes, rooting for everybody, terrified for everyone. So I just wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It was an extremely emotional experience, this entire film. Not only was it our first debut film together as filmmakers, but also for me specifically, being a Nigerian woman, going back to a home I haven't been to since I was 6 years old, being disowned by my father and his side of the family for doing this project, being concerned about if the attention of the film is going to put anyone in danger, and like figuring out a balance between protection and also people like, we're ready to do this, we want to tell our stories, and you feel like, you know, a catch-22, you feel ready to like be a part of the movement with the community, but also there's obviously great fear around doing it. But we both knew that no matter what, it was time, and that we had to join arms and link arms with our family back home in Nigeria, our community back home in Nigeria, and be able to tell the story in taste, to tell it in a way where people are thriving, and not just in the survival sad way that people try to portray Africa. Specifically, we wanted to give it a taste and a style and a class and the fun, beautiful place we always saw it to be from the beginning.
Hi, it's Rhonda. When I watched, a lot of times I was just enraged because, you know, to think and that people would do this to other people. But how did this project come to be? So can you kind of give us a little background on that?
Yes, there's two ways this came to be. One, the first part of it is I was actually at a New York City Pride Parade with my sister, who's the CEO of Harlem Hospital. We were walking with New York City Health and Hospitals at the Pride Parade, and I turned behind me and I seen this big giant float with a Nigerian flag and a rainbow flag. And I said, no way. I said, there's no way. I've never seen a queer Nigerian in my entire life besides myself. So I'm literally, my father's Nigerian, my mom's from Harlem. So there's a whole half of my family that I'm not able to experience on a regular basis besides my dad. So I was very confused as to how there was a queer Nigerian float behind me. I turn around and who's right there? Micheal Ighodaro. And I went and I said, "Are you guys Nigerian?" And they were like, "Yes." And I said, "Are you guys gay?" They're like, "Yes." And I was like, "Can I march with y'all?" And we just literally danced the whole parade. And I feel like I finally found home, you know, in people. I moved on, I partied with them that day, moved on, went to an Ethiopian restaurant probably a year later. And my waiter said, "Is your name Nneka?" And then I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, he was like, "You're Nigerian." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "But I probably can't go back there now that I'm out in the US." And then he was like, "Well, I can't go back either. I'm Nigerian and I'm here to seek asylum." He said, "There's gonna be a party later. Do you wanna come to the party? It's in Harlem. It's gonna be at this nice brownstone house." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Then I got busy. I wasn't gonna go, but Deji, who's in the film at the end, kept texting me like, "Come, come, come." I go to Harlem in the house. I walk up the stairs and there's about 60 Nigerian queer men in this one house with Nigerian food. They're like, "Sit down, eat this." All the foods that I was eating, you know, growing up with my dad was there, but now it was my community. So again, I saw Micheal at this party. So I realized that they all came together to seek asylum. There's a big movement happening underground. And I was like, wow, this is so important and special. And so I saw that as family. Cut forward, I worked with Giselle on this project called My House about the underground Vogue ballroom scene in New York City. What happens since Paris is burning? And Giselle has such a beautiful, sophisticated eye and ways that she tells stories. And I was so enamored by her taste and her thoughtfulness, and her as being another queer woman. We both kind of came together in that film, in that project and series, and tried to decide how we're going to tell the story. And we had such great creative chemistry. And so after My House ended, we were like, we want to do another project that tells more stories, because it's not only the New York, you know, LGBTQ community that exists. This exists in different places where there are definitely higher stakes. So we were thinking about all the places. We're like Paris, we're like Russia. Russia was like, that doesn't quite have to do with our culture directly. And Giselle said, "What about Nigeria?" And I said, "Nigeria? Are you crazy? No way." I said, no. That's the scariest thing in the world. Like, they're, you know, like tough out there. She was like, "I think we should do it." And we're both Aries, so we get scared and we do something anyway. And we developed the project together.
Yeah, I think it was important for us because with My House, we were also looking at how people were going abroad a lot and teaching voguing, catwalking, all kinds of things. We were really inspired by that because both of us I'm an immigrant to the US, my family's Jamaican. Nneka's father is Nigerian. So we wanted to see what about in our home cultures, what does this look like? Does it exist already? And can we kind of join forces between the African-American queer community and the underground community in some of these other spaces and tell a story that kind of fits our heritage and see what it feels like, what the experience is for people back home.
And so the initial thing was supposed to be about the boys who were here in the US seeking asylum. And then we were on the train and 50 Cent reposted a video and we saw it, and there's James Brown fighting the police. And I was like, who is this boy? I did not know that there was this. Further confirmed that we needed to tell this story because we realized there was arrest happening in Nigeria right that moment, right at that year. And these boys had just gotten arrested, and we saw James fight back. And we love telling stories of courageous characters who, despite any circumstances, they stand up for what they believe in. And James was that person. So because Micheal had already gotten his green card, and he was set to go back to Nigeria for the first time in 8 years, we said, this is a beautiful parallel between creating a movement, building family, finding home, trying to reconnect with yourself. And we thought it was just a beautiful story to tell, to get the full perspective of when you are trying to be yourself somewhere, and people try to push you out, how do you fight for the freedom within? So that's how we found this beautiful story.
Well, thank you so much. I think this is important work.
Hi everyone, Katia Woods, Cup of Soul Show. My question is for Micheal and Yomi. First of all, thank you for your courage, because you literally did put your lives on the line to tell your story. What is your hope other than bringing awareness, right? What is it that we can do to help amplify the message of what is going on in Nigeria? Because the first thing I thought, I was like, how can I help other than to support the film, but how can we help to support the movement, to keep you safe so that, you can continue to do this work?
Hi everyone, Michael here. I am again, just kudos to Nneka and Giselle for doing this. I think, you guys have created a revolution that's going to go on and on and on, for decades to come. And I'm just so excited to be part of this movement and to share my story. I believe in storytelling. I think it changes hearts and minds. I think the more of us who share our stories, the more people get to listen and see us, that we're human and that we're not demons or, unnatural, like, human beings who love, who have friendship, who have relationships with people, who also like very vibrant and entertaining and fashionistas. I think that's what's also important in this movie as well. For me, I think there's so many ways people can support this film apart from obviously stream it and share it, but also like we're creating an initiative right now with Rainbow Rerolled and several organizations here in the US and Nigeria where people can donate to support the emergency needs of those in the film, but as well as support the movement in Nigeria. Because I think, as you know, there are several organizations in Nigeria who are working with LGBT communities. One of them is Yomi's organization, AAFCA, but there are several others in Nigeria who are working in the country right now to, provide support, emergency support, safe houses, but also litigation support for, as you all know, there's a law in Nigeria where people can go to jail for 14 years. So there's a movement in the country. Apart from supporting the movie, you can support the organizations on the ground to do the work that they do.
I muted myself. What about you, Yomi? What, you have an organization, and how can people support? Because you're also an attorney, correct? How can they support?
Okay, so there are many instances through which we can get or receive support. But mainly, I think what's important above any other thing is to be able to create avenues that allow protection and safety of persons, and also to allow initiatives to thrive within the space, because there are certain activities, there are certain programs that we run here that is very vital to the lives of queer persons here in Nigeria, specifically instances of their sexual health, access to human rights, and access to justice. And above all, most important, like I said earlier, is their safety and security, which to a certain extent keeps changing on a daily. And now that, the movie was filmed in 2019, if I'm correct. It was filmed in 2019, and since then, a lot of things has deteriorated here in Nigeria, which at the end of the day, queer persons are always the excuse or the distraction to get all of these things in to distract the general public from real issues that occur. And right now, we have a whole lot of insecurity issues here, which is not just to queer persons alone, but generally, because you see people being kidnapped on the road anyhow, and instances like that are actually cropping up daily. So the instance now is we're trying to create mechanisms that ensure safety and quick response to persons who might be in danger or could be in possible positions of threat.
Hello, Dana Abercrombie from the Coalition. My question is for the directors. You're dealing with the topic that, it's very controversial in Nigeria, obviously. So were there any kind of safety concerns when filming? Did you face any kind of complications?
Definitely. There was definitely safety complications. We had people following us the second time we went to Nigeria. We had to leave early. We had, I think when we were filming one of the boys, I think we were being listened to closely. Also, we had to strategize around when we went to film at the safe houses. We would either need to go at nighttime or at a time when it was not very busy outside. We made sure we didn't shoot any surrounding areas that gave away exactly where people lived in their homes. And I think that, it was around elections. It was around the election time, and that is the craziest time in Nigeria. Everyone knows there were ballot boxes being set on fire. There was a lot of controversy and chaos. So we had to really be agile. We had to be really strategic about what we wore, where we went, and when we went there. So we built a lot of our schedule to accommodate getting around the elections. So I think that that was a lot of it.
I was going to say, and also for, in a huge act of bravery, Micheal going back to Nigeria, there were obviously a lot of safety concerns around that. And we had to make sure that we could assure that he would be as safe as possible, as well as the rest of the crew. We had to be very careful, like Nneka was saying, about even disclosing the topics that we were describing. And I think even the way the story is told, it's very precise and careful in the way that we're talking about identity.
We actually had like Micheal had security, so we ensured that he had security the whole time he was there. Secured cars, security vehicles. We always had security at shoots, but we even secured the community from the security we had locally. So often we would shoot with the security away from hearing the content, so that also, because they still live in Nigeria and we just honestly didn't trust anyone. So we like made sure that we put the security at a place where they were securing the premises, but we were able to just be intimate with the boys and women, you know, alone, so that we could ensure that, you know, the topics weren't getting out, because we were always nervous, like, are these ex-police, or, you know, what are they? So we had a lot of security.
Yeah, and I was also going to say, and I think the most important thing is that we didn't push anyone to do anything, film anywhere they didn't want to film. It was very much, where do you want to film? What do you want to show? What do you feel is safe? And taking the guidance of obviously the people who are living this every single day, instead of imposing our will or what we want to do. That was a very, very important factor.
Yes, and then lastly, our crew was all Black, and we hired some Nigerian producers who actually live on the ground in Nigeria with us. And so I think having an all Black crew was actually one of the best things we've ever done, because I feel like it's our home. So, you know, when we're there, everyone treated us like family and more comfortable. Oftentimes when you go, you know, maybe with the all white crew, you have a different reaction, a lot of area boys coming to you for money and different things like that. And I feel like we didn't face as much of that because people kind of welcomed us as family, and that's how we treated everybody. So we created a family like environment to help keep people safe too.
Thank you. Did that kind of affect the narrative of the story? Sorry.
Which part?
Just the security.
Because of the complications with the security.
Definitely, because there was stuff that we wanted to shoot. There was things that we wanted to shoot that we just couldn't, in order to keep people safe around the elections. And I think that there were like more parties happening that we could have got, but we really tried to keep the parties abstract and really about just making a point about the party scene and how it was rated, versus like shooting a lot of, you know, other events that took place there.
The main party that we shot was one that everybody there knew we were filming and came knowing that they were comfortable being filmed, even versus going into something that's happening as a fly on the wall, and there's no way to ensure that everyone would be comfortable in that situation. So we definitely didn't do that because of that reason.
Yes. Also, if you look in the film, there's a lot of different tiers of class. So I think in the class situation, I think sometimes, like, you know, you're able to film more with people who might be more on the, you know, what is perceived as elite status. Because, you know, the more poor a lot of people were, the more in danger they were. So they didn't have the flexibility. So there was like the mainland and the island. And we were able to film on the island a lot more than the mainland, because the mainland, there was a lot more danger there. In the island, it was a lot more safety there, just because of the type of area it was.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Nancy Green with Film Critique. And my question is for all of you, actually. So half of my family is Nigerian, and and my stepfamily is Jamaican. So I kind of wonder with this film if there's been any feeling from people that maybe it's a bit more Americanized, and what the reception has been like overall with people on you know, from Jamaica, Nigeria, and the United States in terms of how this movie is changing maybe how it might change perceptions?
I think we got actually good feedback from the people that especially participated. We really tried to listen to their stories they told. That's why we did a lot through, you know, the podcast person, Timmy, who was on there. Yomi gave us a lot of insight, helping us understand the different statuses. And we really allowed the people that we followed to lead the narrative of what their community was, and not like, we didn't try to turn it into a ballroom community. Their stuff was through you know, they have a lot of things that are through status, you know. It wasn't about like, you know, like we could have just made it like about just it wasn't about, you know, slavery or anything like that. They were like really focused on in a community that's like Nigerian, just Nigerian, instead of it being about race. Our stuff is about class. So we may experience some of the same things, but this is very different here because it's about class here in Nigeria. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I was going to say, I think also there is a culture clash between people who are now living in the US and people who are still living in Nigeria. I think that's an important part of the story. I think, you know, the leaving your country and then going back and what happens when you do that is a really, really important part of the story that we're trying to tell. So rather than it being, I guess, a problem, I think it enriches the story that there are different perspectives of different people in different places talking about their experience.
And we tried to add that nuance. Like, you might have a character like James, but James doesn't represent everyone. So if you see the scene where some of the other boys who are arrested, he's like, this doesn't represent me. Just like, you know, you come to communities here and every single gay person, lesbian person, or whatever you want to call yourself doesn't, you know, present the same, doesn't have the same amount of money, doesn't live in the same area. And I think that one of the strong suits was like Michael has been in America. So when he came back at that dinner scene and they're like, try walking in heels out here in the markets out here and see what happens. They weren't trying to accept Michael back as being a Nigerian person. And I thought that was something that we added into the story because that was something that's really true. And some people view people who leave the country for asylum like as if like they're, you know, less Nigerian now, like they gave up their Nigerianness to be American, but that's not always, you know, that's not the case. And so I think it was important to tell both sides. And then also Yomi, someone like Yomi, someone who's like, we have to fight. If we don't stay and fight here, we're never going to actually be able to be here. So we need to stay here. And I honestly think what we tried to show is we need both sometimes to be able to create a movement, get resources, and bring information back to figure out how we can now make change in our home. So
and I also think just if you look at the aesthetic and the music, everything very much is a montage and mashup of all kinds of different kind of underground cultures. You know, obviously there are parts of it that feel American. A lot of the aesthetic we really borrowed from a lot of Nigerian designers and artists that we really admire. Some of them are in the film. The style, very much from the scene that's a part of the music. Sometimes it's American, sometimes Nigerian. I think just in terms of who we are as creators, I lived in 3 different countries. My grandmother lived in Ethiopia. That's where I'd visit her. My family's Jamaican. Her family is from Harlem and from Nigeria. So we have kind of a blending of lots of different influences. And I think that's a part of how we tell stories visually and just in terms of our perspective.
And somebody might consider it Americanized if they haven't been to Nigeria. So when we went to the party in Nigeria, they played American music. They don't only play Afrobeats music. They listen to Sydney Laufer. They listen to like disco era music. Like there was like hip hop playing. So I think that's something people would find interested in. Is they might think that music that we added in there is just like our American take on it. But it's like, no, when we went to Nigeria, the DJ, it was a Nigerian DJ and he was playing music from all over. So yeah.
I was just gonna say, you know, I think Giselle and Nneka are right. I think, you know, in terms of how people perceive the movie, or how people will see the movie, or how people to change people's perspective or not, I think it's really Nigerian. Like, I think in my view, I think the movie is really Nigerian. If you see it, it's the new generation of people who are young people who are changing the landscape. And if you see the movie, it's not, I don't think it was intentional to use all young people. It's mostly because young people are the ones in the streets, are the ones who leave their family homes, are the ones most of the times at risk of being, arrested or persecuted, or or beaten up in the streets. So they are the ones who are the face, in my view, of the movement. And that's why the movie really portrays them. Like, if you look at it, be it in the US, where mostly young LGBT people have been asked from their homes, or in Nigeria, where young LGBT people have been arrested or beaten up in the streets, the same people. So I think people can relate to that in that aspect of the movie. Like, it's not forced, it's natural, it's what it is. And it's in the true stories of people, like my story, the story of James, and my best friend's story. I think it's real, because those are the people who are actually in the movement. They are the face of what we see right now. That does not say they are not like other people who have been in the movement for years, but it's just that young people are the ones who are mostly at risk of time.
I just want to also add, it's kind of a movement that's taking place on the internet, and that's crossing a lot of borders, cultures, continents, and kind of created a blended conversation that's starting to feel very global, and there are different kinds of influences happening, and very much driven by young people. So just adding to what Michael was saying.
And again, there are institutions in Nigeria. Like, before I left Nigeria, I worked, actually, the organization that Abayomi is the ED of right now, I worked with Aka for so long before I left Nigeria. I was one of the program managers. So I think, those organizations that have been on the ground for so long, there are several others who started a movement in Nigeria. And I think, as things evolve, people start to find other places for safety, and people start to think they need something else. Like, for me, yes, it was based on risk and fear of my life that I left Nigeria, but people also left to just find joy, to find love, and to find relationships somewhere else, and not as if they are persecuted, or for financial, sustainability of themselves and their families. So it's not all the time because of risk. Sometimes it's to go find love, to go be with a man you love, because you can't do that back in Nigeria. You want to go somewhere to do it. So it's like a mixed, community, and there are people who started a movement in Nigeria. I just want to say that.
I think everything that everybody said is kind of factual. And if anything, in terms of the movement, yeah, I think the generation now are filled with young people. If anything, that is amazing now that I see here, because, I mean, I don't even know how to put this. There's some people will call me old. I don't know, in this movement, some people will say I'm an old activist and blah, 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 blah. So there was a certain way the so-called old activists would, act then. And way back then, like Michael said, most people who left then based on the fact that they were queer was not only because of the risk of violence, but because they needed to find some kind of solace, like peace of mind, joy, and ultimately also the risk factor. But one thing that has changed within time now is that people are actually leaving because they want to leave, because the country is shitty.
Yeah.
And maybe also coupled with the fact that they're at risk, or maybe somebody somewhere is onto them for a particular reason or whatnot. But the good side is that most of the youth today, I think maybe because of the work that has been on the ground for so long, because I wouldn't lie, I've been part of certain initiatives that have revolutionized activism and queer lives in Nigeria from my space of working in the industry for about a decade or more now, is the fact that young people are not afraid to express themselves. They're not afraid to show who they are. And the fact that we have so many social media platforms, they are literally living their life, even if they can't live it in reality, they live it online and via social media platforms, which I think it's a progressive thing. But with the security risk and the way this country is going, people are now beginning to get social media savvy, to now use the same means that people express themselves with, to use it as a means to target them as well. So it's kind of like it's like a mixed situation here, mixed jeopardy, if I can use that word.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick Riley, host of Inspired with Patrick L. Riley, a digital show that runs on Crew TV here in New York City. I have a question for you about your families, really, Michael, Yomi, and Nneka, all of you. If you could weigh in on, I know as a non-conforming young boy from Savannah, Georgia, whose family still, doesn't have a word for me, but I've been in this 27 years making bold moves, the likes of what you're doing, telling stories that are gonna allow the world to change their perspectives and their minds. And in large order, we see them do that. Oprah Winfrey was a big client of mine for over 15 years. And one time asked me to turn the camera on myself and tell the people, the billions of people, when I knew I was non-conforming. It was an easy question for me to do as an affirming, confident man. It was a nerve-wracking question when I thought of what this thing, once it went on the air, would do to my family. And the truth of it is all of those people in Georgia did not call to say, hey, we saw you on the show, the way that they might have in other other appearances that had nothing to do with this subject. So my question to you, do you have an anecdote or an update on, when you see the work happening and you see we got a GLAAD award for that episode, that was something that meant something, but it still wasn't a rah-rah from my family. And what I'm learning over these years, it's not always the mom, the dad, or the sister, the brother that comes through. Sometimes it's a cousin. Sometimes it's the little nephew who has the bigger voice to say, you were the one who meant something to me. And so now I can be that loud voice as you speak of in this social media generation. They speak louder and more boldly. So my question to you, do any of you have anecdotes, Micheal, Yomi, Nneka, of people in your families who have come around, not in that grand way that we would love to just have a welcome home Patrick party, but in the way of just knowing that you've made anecdotal differences with people that you've cared about, from the womb?
I could definitely say that for me, my father was supposed to come to the premiere, and he's running for New York City Council. So I'm making this film at the worst possible moment for him. He just ran yesterday. The election was yesterday, and he hasn't talked to me since it came out. And he's Nigerian. I have a very prominent family that's in government. And so he's always wanted me to do big films. He loves all the glitz and the lights and the status. He's all into that. And then when the film actually came out, he saw it was about Nigerian and it was a no-no. So he didn't show up. So I was like, obviously devastated. I'm such a daddy's girl. I grew up primarily, I had my dad more than most people. And so literally he hasn't spoken to me. However, my cousins from my mom's side, my chosen family, my friends, I think I had to spend the day of the premiere by myself. And I had to really give honor to the fact that my family hasn't always been completely accepting of me. My mom's side has come around, but my family hasn't been completely accepting to me. But I was able to get chosen family at church. I was able to get chosen family in school. I was able through my teachers. I always had people that I kind of brought together. And my grandmother, she's passed on, but she raised me in the church, and she taught me confidence, and she taught me to love people and serve my community. And all of those people that we kind of gathered together as our chosen family did show up in mass numbers. We had like 60 people show up that were chosen family. And that felt equally as good because it helped show how much the heart and storytelling can help bring people together, even that you didn't know. And then the anecdote is really seeing all of the boys from Nigeria be able to celebrate on a red carpet, watch them take pictures, come together and smile after they experience all of this. And that was satisfying to me. This film has always been about them. And so things might not make sense right now, but they didn't know Paris is Burning was something until years later. And I think this is going to be one of those films way down the line because it's the very first time they're showing their faces in this space, especially at this big public platform like HBO, where John Legend and Rihanna and everyone is like posting and sending their music and doing things like this. I think that is revolutionary enough. And that is what God wanted to happen. And so it did. So I think that's the anecdote for me, is that just as much as Micheal and Yomi and all James had to have chosen family. That's the shared experience that I have. And I was able to connect there and just say, wow, look at our chosen family and look what we did. We're revolutionizing this. And although our families might not be okay, my little gay cousins that are now coming up, they get no heat anymore. And now that someone is going to be back in Nigeria and see a Micheal, see a James, see a Yomi, and be affirmed and know that they're beautiful. And I think that is the most positive part that we can ask for. And, and I can build my own family. So I'm at that stage now in my 30s, pushing into my mid 30s. It's like, we could build our own family to do that. So I'm just very happy for the boys, really. And people back in Nigeria, honestly, have been writing. There's been a lot less criticism than I thought. A lot of people are DMing saying, this is amazing. All the Nigerian leaders who are actresses here that are not even a part of the community are very happy, very excited, very supportive. So I'm very surprised by the support and happy about that.
Beautiful. Lean into the love, I always say. What about you, Micheal, Yomi? Any anecdotes, just about anyone personal to you who took a beat to come around, but maybe they did in a way that you didn't expect, but it made a difference maybe to your heart?
Yeah, I would say before the film, I had just sort of rekindled relationship with my parents. For so long, we weren't in good terms at all. And then we actually had a shoot in the family house that they made in the film. But my mom and I, we sort of, started a relationship, and up until she saw the trailer, and then they had a family meeting WhatsApp group, and which they kicked me out of and told me I can no more use my last name, the family last name, as my actual name. So I would say, again, the reason why I wanted to be part of the film was bigger than just my family. I know they came to a place where they've accepted me as gay, but they don't want me to be speaking about who I am as a gay person. I think that's where we've had the clashes about, yeah, you can be gay, but can you just keep it to yourself? But then, yeah, I am in an HBO movie talking about my story and talking about them, what they did to me. And that's rekindles a lot of hate and, backlash again. I think I have had friends, again, they are probably two girls and my family. You can see them in the movie. And, I think I've made family from, people that, that can relate to my story. I think back in Nigeria, my best friend was my mother, my father, my sister, my everything. And I think he was my family. So I think, the community sort of became my family at a very young age. And I think they are the people that I grew to know as a family. I wouldn't say my biological family have actually been there as family. I would rather say them as, distant family, and say my LGBT community as my actually family, because they are the ones that, that I grew up with as a kid and, as a teenager and then as an adult.
Beautiful. Yomi, do you have one?
Okay, I'm sorry, I keep cutting the video just because this is a very emotional question for me. I'm sorry. So for me, I've never really had any relation or whatsoever in that regard that has been maybe positive to maybe my personality or my sexuality. But luckily, I have two cousins who are also queer, and yeah, we found out at least for the guy, I found out after we had slept with each other. How funny was that? And then my other cousin is a girl. I found out when she was at a party, and I wouldn't lie, to a certain extent, my cousin was the guy, was found out in the family, and he was kind of, excommunicated from the family entirely. And my cousin, she's on a down low, she's married now, and I'm literally facing pressure to also do the same because I'm older than her, literally by 6 years or more. And I'm currently in Lagos as we speak right now, and over the weekend I'm supposed to meet my mom, who I had to give her some bogus story about how I'm seeing this girl and I'm supposed to bring the girl home and blah, 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 blah. So for me, I've never really had any family member or anyone close to me like that who's been supportive and stuff like that. Even while in school, I think, I only just came out with my closest friends who I literally served university with when we were done. basically, I think last year, was it? Yeah, 2020 was when I came out to my friends who had been 5 years of university with that, oh, this is why I know. Like, oh, we know and we love you and we care about. But when it comes to my family, if anything, it has actually set us apart because I was in a 7-year relationship at a point. And the fact that my family kind of suspected, it found out, it threw the relationship apart, it threw me apart, my brother and I. Till date, we don't really talk except where like on a need to know basis, or because my dad's late and it's just my mom. And since my sister died, she's been like not so emotionally stable. So he gets along with me based on that purpose alone. Just for the fact that my mom isn't further hurt. Like I was recently attacked, not I wouldn't say based on my sexuality, but I was attacked in my home where I was robbed and also assaulted. And when I based on the fact that they're my family, I called to like say, okay, so this is what happened and blah blah blah. I literally left here, nothing, and I have to move because this is the second time I've had this kind of intrusion here in my space, and I needed some kind of support. My brother literally told me that I shouldn't tell my mother, and that even if I have to, I shouldn't tell her that I was assaulted, and that I shouldn't ask her for anything, and they don't have anything to give me to support. So it's kind of been very hard for me. But the one thing that I say I lean into in this entire job is the fact that every person that I've had to every person that I've had to come across and I've had to, be an impact in their life, make positive change, either maybe through helping them resolve a case or, just educating them. I wouldn't lie, even before now, I've had people who come and say, you're the reason why I continue to be myself. You're the reason why I'm doing this. And with this documentary, I've had people who, even on social media or dating apps, people who just see my picture and just text me and be like, oh, thank you. We love what you did. We are proud of you, and blah, 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 blah. So they've kind of been, and the work, I think I've been doing this job for since 2012. Wait, what am I saying? Since 2008, when I was a volunteer, I've been doing this job. Until date, my family do not know what I do. They don't know where I work. They don't know anything about my career, so to speak. So it's kind of very sad for me because I'm a mommy's boy. I'm very close to my mother. It took me to leave Lagos to move to Abuja to, stand on my own and say, yes, if I really want to be myself, I need to create space for myself to be able to, exude my full potential and expression and express the way I choose. My hair right now is an issue it's an issue. So in the family group, there's the thing they do, they post everybody's picture and then they celebrate them, happy birthday, blah, 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 blah. I see so many people. Last year, because this is, it's actually human hair, it's actually real dreads. And what I do is I put them on and I take them off at will. So last year, I didn't have this hair on. I'd already removed it by the time it was my birthday because I had a really terrible experience that period. So I kind of, when you're going through certain things, you just act out. And I just shaved my entire hair off. They celebrated me so much. Like, you needed to have seen the pictures and everything because I'm still on a down low, despite the fact that I'm quite effeminate and I talk in a certain way. I'm different from all of my cousins and stuff like that. But this year, I posted, when they asked me to put a picture, I put a picture with my hair. I think I got only like 5 likes and like 6 people saying happy birthday and stuff like that. It's really, really hurtful for me because I grew up like with I'm the last child. So I was pampered. I had a lot of aunties who liked me, who always wanted to give me and stuff like that. And because of that, I even had to stop attending family events because any small thing they ask about me and my marriage plans and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want all of that. So the work particularly has been the love of my life and things that I'm leaning on to get solace as a person here in Nigeria.
Well, if I can just say in closing, each of your sharings reflect so honestly and earnestly my own. And since you say that the folks are calling you old, Yomi, I'm 51 now, or I will be 51 in November. And look, it does get better in one regard, but it's not absolute. The ones who come around. The created community is the community that we lean into, and it's important that we seek it as validation, which was one of the narratives in the film. The young man who lost his father, for example, not feeling that validation from that beautiful chosen family. But there was something in him that wanted that validation, that love, that acceptance from his family. And that's a feeling I think we'll always have. But I think it's very important that we lean into the love. So just bravo to all of you for your humanity and your just everything, just beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I just want to answer the question too.
Yes.
Only because I tend to kind of sit back for a lot of these, because I think that people have very impactful and profound experiences, and mine is a lot more of a quiet one, but I think it's important to share. For me, I identify as like fluid or bisexual, and so it's very easy for me to not talk about things or kind of hide that experience. And I think that's a big reason why I feel very disconnected actually from a lot of my family. It's easy for me to kind of just not speak about things, and therefore there is no connection. And so this has been a really big coming out for me actually, especially outside of my intimate family, like more of my extended family. And I think every day, every time something comes out, every time I'm asked to speak and I do speak on it, more people will know. So I think it's important that I do so. And so to answer your question, there's a lot that I still don't know about how my family will react. My family, for the most part, is very conservative. They're Jamaican. I don't know, but for the people who have caught wind of it and have reached out to me for the first time, it's made me feel connected. It's made me feel loved, not just by because we're blood, but truly as an individual loved. And so I hope that will sustain, any other response that comes my way. Just wanted to share. Thank you guys for letting me share that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's the spectrum, they're all variations of how we experience connection to our family. So that is just as profound a connection as anything, persecuting, if you will.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. I have one final question. The laws that are in place for persecution in Nigeria are being replicated all throughout Africa at this time. What are your thoughts and concerns about that?
Okay, so Nigeria has always been like the watchword or watch country for every other African country. If we do some things, people try to replicate it. I don't know what power that we have because this country is just shitty. But at the end of the day, the concern right now is not even for Nigeria, but for Ghana particularly, because there's been a whole lot of rape in Ghana. A lot of people have been displaced. A lot of things have been going on that has been raising eyebrow to issues of, instilling more like strict laws that would be criminalizing queer people in Ghana, associations and stuff like that. And in that regard, myself and a few activists have been rallying around people in Ghana to see how we can help and how we can support and how we can be there for them. Because, even in as much as it's a holistic thing that we do in terms of service provision and recognition of rights for queer people, we also need to also look at our home front, how we can protect ourselves and our own people here at this end. Because to be frank, once Ghana implements that law or enacts that law, Nigeria is going to follow suit immediately. We're currently going through so many things right now that they're looking for an excuse to, use the Same-Sex Right Prohibition Act, which was enacted in 2014, was a means to dissuade Nigerians from the extortion, the investment that's going on within the governmental system that we have. So my worry particularly right now is it's not so much the laws, because sometimes or at a point, these laws were not being implemented. The Same-Sex Prohibition Act existed, but there were not any kind of convictions made or arrests of blah, 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 not till the 57 boys, which was documented in the film, came out, and then it now became a norm, because after that, I think they arrested another 71 or 91 boys in the north, and then another 27 in the east, and it kept going on and on like that. So if anything, should this come up again, should the conversations come up again in any part of the African country, trust me, Nigeria is going to jump on it. And that's my biggest fear, because what people here, both state actors and non-state actors, are now empowered. They feel it's their right of passage to deal with people who are here. So if they find out, just to quickly add, I just got off, yesterday I met with one of the participants in the film who talked about how he was being attacked based on the fact that he was in the film. And when he was given the story, he said they took him to a place where there were other 2 queer persons that were sitting down there and had been there for a day or 2 before he came in. And the reason why they released him was the fact that the calls that were coming into his phone was saying that they were tracking his phone, and they were going to find his location out soon. So they released him. So people are already feeling so empowered that they could literally do anything to queer persons in Nigeria. So should there be anything, conversations that come up again, that is my biggest fear, because we would then have like a ripple effect of violence or attacks across the country.
Wow. Well, Yomi, take care of yourself, please. Thank you, everyone. This has been a wonderful experience, and we certainly hope that this film will be as impactful to audiences as it certainly was to all of us. Thank you. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black critics, thank you for watching this episode of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Yomi. We see you. We see you.
Thank you.